News Corp's owner says he wants to take its content and hide it from Google. Is it a good choice? We'll talk to a couple technology journalists, Andrew Nuska from ZDNet and Stuart Miles from Pocketland. Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Visit gotomeeting.com/techpodcasts. For years, many newspapers and magazines have had a love-hate relationship with Google. They love the traffic that it might send, but they also feel like people can use Google News or other search engines to get the gist of their content without actually visiting their website. Is this actually true? And Rupert Murdoch has said now that whether it's true or not, he's planning to probably cut off access from Google. Is this a good idea? Andrew, what's your sort of take on this? I mean, we've been hearing people say this for years. This is the first time, Rupert Murdoch is really putting his money where his mouth is. Do you think this is a good idea for him?
Well, I think one underestimated part of the Wall Street Journal is that it's really actually a niche publication, despite its large circulation. And I think that when you treat it like that, you really can restrict it to just a set group of people. So it's not absolutely off the wall.
Now we've seen in the past, the Wall Street Journal has sort of restricted its content to a paywall anyway. You need to pay to have access to the full articles, but through a little manipulative URL hacking, you can get Wall Street Journal for free via Google. Now, Stuart, what's your take? I mean, do you think that the Wall Street Journal needs Google, and I guess all Rupert Murdoch pay publications, which could include Fox News to some extent? I guess they could try that model out. I mean, do you think that's something that they need, is Google, or do you think that they have enough clout to really get by without having to worry about Google?
I think what they're looking at is that they have, News International has an amazing brand portfolio, whereas it's the Times in London or, the Wall Street Journal here in New York. What that means is that they don't necessarily need Google to drive lots of traffic, and the traffic that they can drive is probably irrelevant to them. What's the point of having 10 million unique visitors a month if only 1 million of those are actually relevant to, to be able to be targeted to? What I think they can turn around and do is say, well, look, we're going to throw out this paywall. We're going to then charge, advertisers specific. We can charge more money in advertising because we know exactly who the people are because they're paid to be there. Therefore, they're more relevant. And that, in the end, it's probably going to earn them more money by just charging that 1 million very targeted users than having 10 million who are just there for, fits and giggles.
I think that's it makes sense to me that the Wall Street Journal is a targeted publication and all these different things. But I think regular people who just might be searching for something like some random search query that might normally show up on Wall Street Journal, that's they're going to lose that user for sure. And in addition, in the next couple, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, don't you guys, Andrew, don't you think search is going to be playing such a big role that this could actually end up hurting them? Will they have to eventually just say this isn't working and switch back? How do you reconcile the future of news and the future of people using news versus this paywall idea?
Well, the idea that, to restrict it to serve your own readers, I can see that, and from a marketing perspective, it makes sense. But at the same rate, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense from a growth perspective. It means that they have to rely completely on their own efforts to, get the word out about the Wall Street Journal. And I think that that's a difficult prospect if you're going to lock down Google, lock down those results. A site could reasonably quote the Wall Street Journal within fair use, and then that site would get all the traffic. So it's, it makes sense on one side, but on the other side, it's a tough sell.
Now, Stuart, what do you think for regular users? People who are actually going to be trying to find news, do you think this hurts them at all, or do you think that, people who are looking for Wall Street Journal content know that it's in the Wall Street Journal?
No, you see, because I think what happens, right, is that people will search the internet. They'll suddenly go, oh, what's happening on the Yankees game, for example, World Series last week. They'll search the Twitter, or they'll search the internet, or Google, however you get, and probably won't actually then visit any sites in the end anyway. Where you're interested is if you know a specific writer within the Wall Street Journal, the Times or the Sun or what have you, and you're interested in them, you're going to go to them anyway, regardless of whether you're going to search for them or not. Murdoch has this fantastic capability of having huge brands that have been around for hundreds of years that you know and trust, and therefore you're happy to go to. That's the success. What's going to happen, what's going to be interesting over that 5-year period, is if he's seen to be successful, everybody else will fall into line. Every other major system, like the New York Times or anything like that, will turn around and say, you know what, I think he might be onto something. And going back to Andrew's point about how, it's about growth market, well, they have, News International spends billions on advertising and marketing anyway. Yeah. It's a household name for most people. So the concept of, trying to draw in new readers will probably just be through regular households because mum or dad read that publication anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to, I guess it's just such a sea change, versus the traditional idea of embracing the internet, in that you kind of say, you know what, like, we're big enough that it doesn't matter. I mean, the people who it really helps, I think, are people like, us three, because realistically, if the Wall Street Journal is taken out of the equation, people are going to be visiting TechV, ZDNet, PocketLint, rather than the Wall Street Journal, because they'll be kind of taken out of the results. I mean, in the long term, like, longer term, rather than, the next 5 years, I mean, I think it could hurt the Wall Street Journal and these larger publications eventually, because, new readers won't trust them because they'll trust the sites that they're finding through search. But conversely, like, at least they're trying something new. Newspapers are dying after all. So I guess we're going to leave it there. Andrew Nuska from ZDNet, thanks for coming on the program, man. We really appreciate it. Also, Stuart Miles from PocketLint, thanks for coming on the show as well. A nice mustache, might I mention, for Movember, right?
Very much.
He's trying to support prostate cancer research. It's Movember. PocketLint has a team. You can find out more about that. We'll send a link in the show notes as well. I'm Randall Bennett. Don't forget, you can catch us on iTunes. We're on YouTube. And we're trying to be everywhere, so let us know if you want us to be somewhere. See you later.